What's going on, Titans fans? Welcome into the Morning Glory Show. I'm Jake Robertson. That's Jonathan Miller, and that's B Will. Make sure you go check us out on all the socials that are listed below. But we're talking free agency today. We had a little flurry that pushed up yesterday. We're going to officially into day two. But Jonathan, how you doing today, and what's your initial thoughts on free agency?
Good, man. I am not as outraged as some. I'm okay. I'm okay with it. There's a couple of players that I really liked, a couple of signings I liked, a couple that had me scratching my head a little bit, but so far so good. But a couple of positions left undressed, so we'll see.
And I think that's probably the biggest thing with this free agency that we've seen thus far is they're just trying to have flexibility as they approach the draft is what it looks like to me. No big names, but B Will, who's your favorite free agent signing that we've seen thus far going into Thursday?
I have to say it's Zeitler, the guard. I know he's on he's on the older
Zeitler.
side, 34, 35. But you talk about a Iron Man, and I hate to really don't use that lightly. The guy plays. He doesn't get hurt. But he's also a leader of men in that room, and something that we've really lacked since really Ben Jones left. And that's the type of signing that I'm looking at that'll really usher this offensive line, to the next level. Is having not only a coach as the leader in that room, but also a player that's been through it and has done it extremely well in Zeitler. So really excited about that signing, and I really think he'll have like a Ben Jones type impact on this team.
I think it's a great comp. And Kevin Zeitler, like you said, 35 years old, played on one of the best offensive lines of football, if not the best, over there at Detroit. Obviously, he's going to sit in right perfectly next to J.C. Latham and Lloyd Cushenberry at the right
Yep.
guard position. 1 year, $9 million deal. So this isn't a long-term solution, especially with that age. But like you said, he's a road dog. He just gets out there. He suits up every single game. I saw, I think it was Bussin' with the Boys, put out the clip of him practicing his kickback steps and his pass pro while his wife is delivering their baby last year. So this is the guy that lives and breathes football, and that's something this team has been lacking. We talked about it all last offseason that we don't know who the leaders are amongst this team, really. And I think the offensive line is one of those positions that those groupings that really didn't have a guy. And I think Zeitler can really fit that mold for you very early on. And then obviously the big talk of the town, we striked real quick there on opening day, and that was with Dan Moore Jr. out of Pittsburgh, got the big deal. 4 year, $82 million. That's a 20.5 AAV. And that's the one that I think has fans upset the most just because they see that big contract for a guy that they've probably never even heard of before. And personally, I hadn't heard of him either. And I think that's kind of what you want out of an offensive lineman is you don't want to know their names. If you know their names, things are happening. And that's why everybody in the Titans organization knows who NPF is. It's because he was bad. If you're good, people don't talk about you. So Dan Moore Jr., this is a guy that I think is going to be okay. When you look at the statistics, obviously he did lead the NFL in sacks given up last year, which is concerning, but I don't think it tells you the whole picture. This is a guy that had a very similar season to J.C. Latham last year and was maybe even slightly better than that. If you can just have that average production and you can fill that gaping hole on the right side of the line and replace that with JC, who you would anticipate taking kind of that next step forward. Then you have Peter Skoronski going into year 3, year 2 with Callahan and Lloyd Cushenberry. No, he's coming back from that Achilles. Maybe they kind of bring him along a little bit slowly is kind of what I would hope for. Still pushing for that Daniel Brunskill signing to play center maybe the first couple weeks of the season. And then, Zeitler fitting in at right guard. This is a good offensive line, I think, as of right now. Or it's not the black hole of that bottom 16 teams that it's been this last 3 or 4 years. My question to you, Jonathan, is who is the best offensive lineman going into this year, standing as of right now?
It might be J.C. Latham at right tackle, if we're being honest. Latham was a elite level right tackle at Alabama. He wasn't just good. So I think the Titans see this signing in a couple of ways. And I think fans, we kind of have to put in context what this signing is, right? First off, there's going to be a premium on all day one free agency signings. That's just the reality, especially at a premium position, which is left tackle, right? So you're going to be paying a premium there. And then second, there wasn't a whole lot of options at left tackle or at right tackle, right? Like, yeah, you had Morgan Moses, which seemed to be the fan favorite. Not going to lie. I was kind of in on Morgan Moses at right tackle too. But it's very clear that they had a plan with Dan Moore, and it's also very clear that we're getting Moneyball front office, right? Like
Brinker ball.
Brinker ball is in full effect, right? They're using the analytics department, they're using the analytics software to determine, like, hey, what do we feel about these players? And so basically, what I think Brinker ball analytics did was they took a look at Dan Moore's career and saw how he's improved year over year over year. And said, okay, there's more room for improvement. This is a young player, and we have the best offensive line coach in football. So you put 2 and 2 together and you say, well, this is a gamble worth taking. And, you know, Dan Moore is not a terrible offensive lineman. He's clearly starter level, or he wouldn't have been able to do it in Pittsburgh for 4 years, right? So, you know, what is there concerns in his game? Absolutely. And that's just what it's going to be. This isn't going to be perfect. But to your point, Jake, this is a far improved offensive line. As a matter of fact, we went from a gaping hole on the right side to a very good, a better right side than left side, arguably now, right? Like, I think that fans are the thing with signing a left tackle here is that not only do you fill the hole at right tackle, you actually get even better at right tackle with moving JC to his preferred spot, right? So at the end of the day, you have a very, very good player at right tackle. You have a very, very good player at right guard in Kevin Zeitler, which is he's my favorite signing of the offseason so far. I think they knocked it out of the park with him. And then you get a serviceable left tackle with upside in Dan Moore. And then you have Peter Skoronski, who towards the end of the season was playing at an all-pro level. Now you have to, you know, get Cushenberry back in a reasonable timeline. He won't be ready for the start of the season, most likely, but that is a much, much, much improved offensive line. So much so that people are like, oh, are the Titans back? Like, oh, they're building a wall for Cam Ward. It's like all this like really positive dialogue towards the Titans regarding the offensive line. And by God, it was arguably the most important thing that this team needed to do was fortify this offensive line. We have had revolving doors on one of the ends, if not both ends of this offensive line for what feels like 4 years now. So the fact that they've addressed it and addressed it in a big way is really good. And one note I want to make in seeing a lot of these 1-year deals, I think the reason for that is because this is part of the rebuild plan, right? Like you sign good players on 1-year deals, you protect your money on the back end, so that way you're looking at even more cap space in theory, right, on in the following season, and then you can take some big swings if your team improves, which is where the Titans are.
Yeah, I'm just not so. For me, I'm not as optimistic as y'all are on this this Jones signing. Not Daniel Jones, but the left tackle signing, Dan Moore. I'm not as optimistic on the Dan Moore signing as others are, just because I see the numbers, I see he struggled. Anytime we go up against a premier pass rusher, which we did last year, I'd say about 60% of the time, he's going to get obliterated. And that's not going to help us, right? We're still going to have the same problem of struggling to protect the quarterback's blind side, and having a rookie quarterback, which I assume to be is Cam Ward, who I'm not really like. I'm not ecstatic about that at one either. But we're going to see the same thing as we've seen in the past, except we're giving this guy $30 million in the first year, right? So we give this guy $30 million in the first year.
Yeah,
we give this guy $30 million.
I think you have an out
year.
After year 2.
But we haggled over Holland. You know what I mean? So that's the type of stuff that irritates me about the start of this free agency is giving a guy like Moore $30 million first year and then haggling over a few $1 million with Holland. And I understand we're not the most attractive destination. I'll say it like that. And it's been a struggle to get guys. Hell, NWI turned us down. But, you know, I can honestly say I'm I feel okay about it, but I'm not optimistic like others are. Like, offense line's completely turned around. I think we're still going to struggle, but we'll see.
I think that Dan Moore, kind of diving in, there's been a couple of people, James Foster from No Flags Film, who I love watching his breakdowns. He did a really good breakdown on Dan Moore. And so everybody in the chat, I recommend you guys watch that if you haven't, because it's really awesome. But essentially what he did was, there is statistics that show that the pass block win rate and the win rate on some of his blocks for Dan Moore is extremely high, yet pressures are high, sacks allowed were high. So then the question is, okay, if he's winning a lot of his reps, but he's still giving up a ton of sacks, then where is the correlation? And what it seems to be is that there is not a lot, but a considerable amount of those 12 sacks allowed, for example, where the play breaks down into the left tackle. There was a couple of instances where Justin Fields literally ran into Dan Moore's defender, right? And then of course, playing TJ Watt twice a year, or I'm sorry, not TJ Watt, playing Myles Garrett twice a year, playing some of these like really big premier guys a lot doesn't help, right? So I think that it's a little bit of both. I don't think that he's as bad as 12 sacks allowed shows on the stat sheet, but I do think there's definitely concerns in his game where he needs to improve. But I think what I'm reading and seeing is that his play strength improved considerably, so he was able to anchor down and perform better in pass protection against those speed to power guys going into last season, that is. And so the reason why I'm optimistic is because it looks like year over year he's improved in the things that he's been inefficient in. And so that's where the level of optimism comes for me. And then Javon Holland thing, I'll say the safety position is just not a premium position. I know that we hear that a lot, but I genuinely believe that. I think that you can get – I think you can get –
we don't have any edge.
Well, I think you can get – well, I think the reason why it's not for us is because – we have a limited amount of cap space and a lot of premium position holes to fill. We need major needs on the defensive, offensive line, at the skill position, quarterback, for example. Like, there's so many areas where we are really, really lacking. So to me, I'm okay. If they would have paid premium money on Javon Holland, I could have gotten excited about it, but I'm really okay with them not making that signing, because at the end of the day, you can fill safety with average play and be a really good defense. And plus, like, Marcus Williams just got cut from the Ravens, so that's an opportunity for Denard Wilson to reconnect. Bro, there's going to be so many. Quandre Diggs is going to get healthy, and he was giving us above average play when he was healthy. There are going to be so many opportunities for the Titans to sign a starter close to the season without needing to spend even half or barely half of the money that it would have cost for a Javon Holland. So,
but Jonathan, we've got it to spend. We're not going to be paying a quarterback. We're not going to be paying any receivers. Like, we're not paying.
I don't know.
We paid a guy $10 million at edge.
We're one day into the full-fledged free agency. Who knows?
Who's available? I'm telling you, we're not.
For who? At safety?
Receiver, we're definitely not.
Oh, yeah. Receiver, I mean, there's a lot of old guys that are going out. I mean, there's the Amari Cooper, the Cooper Cups. Maybe they bring in Cooper and Cooper. That'd be okay.
Yeah,
we can start their
we'll see.
I agree.
I don't think they're necessarily swinging for a veteran free agent receiver, but
Van Jefferson doesn't do it. They're not done.
No,
that's wide receiver.
But I understand what you're saying about safety's not a premium position, and that's sort of like the sprinkles on the cake. But by God, if you got some bland ass ice cream, you're going to need some sprinkles to make it a little bit better, and that's where Javon Holland comes in. This defense does not have any edge talent at all. We just signed a guy. He's going to help from Seattle, but the secondary has to be the shining light of this defense, just composition-wise. Has to be. And that's why you sign a guy like Holland, just to put it over the top, because if you do, you look at the secondary like, oh, shit, we got one of the better ones in the league. That's going to get you over the edge and sort of carry you a little bit and hamper and help the just terrible and dearth edge talent we have. It's terrible. So that's why I say we should have got Holland.
I just think that if we were to look at the free agency board for the Titans, the entire board, here's the thing. I feel like as fans, we don't often look at the entire picture, and it's because we can't see the entire picture. And so what these teams are doing every single year is they create a free agency board and a draft board. And then they say, okay, how do we fill needs in free agency, or what do we really love about adding to the team? And then how can we supplement that in the draft if we fail to add X player or whatever? We know that they were in on Javon Holland. They were likely offering similar money. He chose New Orleans because he felt like that was a better fit. It's the same thing with NWI. They
We
offered
didn't meet the dollars.
that. Regardless, we were in the negotiation. We don't know what the offer is, but it was probably pretty comparable to what he received, and he just chose a different location. The point I'm trying to make is that when you're looking at the needs of a team that have a lot of premium position needs, like it's very clear that they're going to add another edge rusher. It's very clear they're going to probably add another offensive lineman of some sort, right? At the very minimum in free agency. It's very clear they're going to try to probably add a receiver, I would imagine, in free agency still on top of drafting one, because that room is so incredibly thin right now. And so they're not done adding, and we don't know what that plan looks like. So right now, the best we can do is say, okay, this is where I think they should go. And if they can't, or because the player either declines or maybe the money doesn't make sense, whatever, then that's where you turn to the draft. This team now has 8 picks. We have 2 4th-round picks, 2 5th-round picks, and 2 6th-round picks. That's ammunition to move up, by the way. So if you guys are wondering, if we're counting, if we're keeping score at home and you're like 2 5th and 2 6th-round picks, yikes. Like, what is that going to do? Well, it allows you to bundle a couple of extra picks and move up. So if you're in the 4th, maybe you bundle an extra 6th and 5th and you go up high in the 3rd round, or you move up into the 2nd round, and all of a sudden Titans have 2 picks in the 2nd round. Like, those things that's what gives you ammunition. It's the same thing Borgonzi said in all of his interviews, is that, draft capital, that's your money, that's your currency. And they have quite a bit of currency in 2025. So now I think it's very possible that the Titans are probably going to be targeting a 3rd-round pick by sending some of these couple extra late rounders that they have. And that's good news. That just means they're going to have more opportunities to add better players.
But look, I understand what you're saying. And I understand that you're saying that fans can't always look at the big picture, but the picture's pretty clear about where this team lacks. And it's clear that we gave a left tackle that led the league in pressures, led the leagues in sacks, $30 million first year.
Well, he didn't lead the league in pressures, to be clear.
He did lead the league in sacks. Had 45 pressures. So not nothing to write home about with the pressures. That's almost 3 a game.
There was
over 3
guys
a game.
Like Ronnie Stanley and like some of the best left tackles in the league that had just as many pressures as him, by the way. So it's like pressures stats.
We'll talk in week 4 about this. We'll talk in week 4 about this guy. But I'm saying we paid him $30 million first
Something
year.
tells me I'm going to be on the butt end of that conversation.
I'm already telling you are. $30 million first year, but we can't get a guy like Holland. $30 million first year, but we can't try and use some of those picks and trade for a veteran tackle or get Morgan Moses and keep the draft capital or keep the salary cap and then try and make a move for receivers in some capacity. We're going to have to overpay no matter what. But overpay the guys that have done it. That's my thing, especially where we're at right now. I'm tired of these projects and tackle. They ain't worked. Dillard, Daly. It's the triple trifecta. I'm tired of seeing it.
That's fair.
Pay somebody that does it. And that's my problem. Overpay a guy that's done it for 1 year.
You can't do that. You can't do that for tackle because good ones don't become available. That's the problem. If you have
veterans that were available.
Team.
There were veterans that are available that we could overpay. I'm not saying Houston would have traded this Tunsil. I'm not saying Houston would have traded this Tunsil.
No.
Pay a guy like that. Better than paying this guy, Dan Moore.
Who?
Tunsil.
I'm going to turn into an owl. Who?
Tunsil. I'm going to turn into a doctor.
Tunsil.
There's no way the Texans would have moved him towards
We said that, but
I think,
bro,
the Jags traded within the division as well.
Availability. Okay, first off, Laremy
it's happened.
Tunsil, no, they gave up. They got a 3rd, like a 5th, and something else, and a swap of something else. They got quite a bit for Laremy Tunsil. The Titans were not giving up that type of capital. No, because it would have been a divisional premium. It would have been even more.
What's that better than having your quarterbacks broken? Pay it. It's left tackle. We can't say it's premium in one respect, and not say it's premium when we're trying to offer premium comp.
Jake,
I don't think you have to get back into the top 10 offensive linemen to be successful with a rookie quarterback. I think just getting back to the mean, getting back into that 16-ish range is all they're trying to do, and they're trying to develop as they go throughout the future. And Dan Moore, obviously, he gave up all those sacks and stuff. A lot of those were to Myles Garrett and in division to some of those pass rushers he won't see on a yearly basis. I get we got to see Myles Garrett again.
$30 million year one is crazy, though.
Well, here's the thing.
I think 30 is the new 20.
Yes, it is.
This cap is just going to
Man.
continue to rise.
The money's going up. Everyone was saying that about the AJ Brown contract potentially. Well, that's too much money. Now it's laughable how much money
I
he's
never.
making.
I mean,
It's
I
super
don't know who
under.
said that.
The point is that year over year the cap is going up, which means the salaries are going to get inflated. That's just how it works, especially for premium positions. Left tackle is a premium position. Understand this: regardless of how poor Dan Moore has looked statistically, he's improved year over year, and he's at a premium position. He is a young player. He's coming off of his first rookie contract, and any good team that doesn't have a replacement is going to want that player in position. We know there were two other teams. The Patriots were offering him and the Jets were offering him. So there were two other teams.
Great company to be in.
So the Titans were in competition to sign. Here's the other thing. You pay that premium and you're okay with it because you have an opportunity for a young left tackle that has promising upside, which is what the Brinker ball showed them. But more importantly, the only reason why he became available is because the Steelers were in a weird position. When they first drafted him, he was giving them far below average play. So they said, okay, we have to draft a tackle to replace him. They draft Broderick Jones. They have a competition. Dan Moore beats him in the competition. They say, okay, Broderick to right tackle. Then they keep going. And then the next year, it's the same thing. He gets a little better, Dan Moore, but he's still not very good. And they're like, okay, we need to address this. Then they go and draft Troy Fontenot, right? Then they do a competition. And it's like, okay, it looks like Troy's going to replace him. He gets hurt and then he stays and then he improves again. So then at that point, the Steelers have invested a ton of capital into their bookend tackles. And they said, okay, Dan Moore, you're the guy. You're the last guy out, right? And they're okay with it because the level of play was below average. So then he leaves. On 90% of teams, when you have a left tackle that's young and improving year over year, you don't let them walk. They don't leave. They stay on your team. So that's my point, B-Will, is that it's a position that is very hard to fill because players just do not hit the open market like that have that level of talent. And who knows? You might be right. He could be pretty poor in this first year with the Titans, but I think with Bill Callahan and with an improved, line for him, I think there's chance for him to continue to get better. Now, am I not in the same position as you where I would have probably preferred Morgan Moses and keeping JC Latham at left tackle? I think so, but they saw the upside in switching JC to the right and adding a young talent like Dan Moore. And Bill, and I'm not going to argue against Bill Callahan because guess what? There's another reason for this. A lot of people say, oh, Bill Callahan didn't do anything his first year. The Titans from week 13 to the end of the season, the last 5 weeks of the season, our pass pro was tied for 11th. It was a reasonable, like our quarterback play was so bad that it made our offensive line play seem horrible, but they improved as a team and our right side was god awful. So think about it. If you have that level of improvement, then there's a lot of optimism there for Dan Moore to continue to improve like he's been doing year over year anyway.
Dan Moore's not tied to what the Titans did better last year. He's tied to that money he's getting this year, $30 million. We'll see.
Yeah,
I'll give you week 8, week 9.
Expectations are going to be high, and he can't play. And you as a fan and everyone can be absolutely critical because we've had such terrible left tackle play over the past several years. Every person signed Andre Dillard. This reeks of Andre Dillard, right? It's like, hey, there's a lot of upside here. This guy showed, like he played pretty well in Philadelphia. Let's give him this contract. He comes in and he is god awful. So I get it. There's like some fan trauma in there. We should have a level of pessimism about it. But I think that at this point for the Titans, I think it's fair to say like this is an improvement on this offensive line.
I think with Andre Dillard, I know that's the comp that everybody's kind of PTSD for Titans fans coming back to him. I think the biggest difference is Andre Dillard didn't have a lot of snaps to his career at that point. He was drafted as that second round pick. He was always talked up. He just could never break that Philadelphia starting 5. And we were just kind of taking the chance of, hey, maybe we can improve upon that. With Moore, we've seen it. He's been starting. We know what we're going to kind of get out of him. It's not going to be great. It's not going to be awful. You're going to get what you get out of that. It's going to be average play. But I'll say I talked with a Steelers podcast host after the signing just to get his thoughts on it. He's been covering the team for 3 decades now. And he said with Bill Callahan, the sky's the limits for this kid. The athletic traits that he has, and the intangibles, and wanting to improve. This is Nick Westbrook-Akine. He's going to be out there putting in the reps, and he's going to improve every single day. So this is a guy that could potentially become a cornerstone for you. But I think, if anything, you've kind of tied this offensive line together at the tackle position for the next 3 to 4-ish years with him and JC Latham. And that gives you flexibility as well. They could, hey, if he's not great, you could potentially kick him into guard and you flip JC Latham back to left tackle, and maybe you're looking for another right tackle next season in the draft. This draft class in the upper day 1, day 2, not a lot of talent. There's lots of guys with short arms like Peter Skoronski that are coming out this year. But I know somebody mentioned it in the comments earlier today. Are they done addressing the offensive line? I don't think they are. I think they're still going to address this. No, you've still got to continue to build. And this is the whole thing that Bergonzi's been talking about since his opening press conference. They're going to build through the trenches. And a guy like Kevin Zeitler is only here for the 1 year. Maybe they re-sign him for another 1 or 2 after that. But you're going to continue to draft and develop on day 3. And like Jonathan said, they got the 2 4s, the 2 5s, the 2 6. There's going to be an offensive lineman that's probably going to have some flexibility within where he can play. Maybe he's a center potentially that can kind of. I think they're going to have to address the position regardless of the 2. And then they're going to get – I know they brought in another Bill Callahan guy earlier this week as well. A guy I've never heard of his name. I think he played third string left guard for the Cleveland for the last couple of seasons.
Blake Hentz or whatever his name is.
It's his Swiss Army knife, they claim.
Yeah, so that's a guy that I think he maybe trusts to maybe kick inside, or he can be that swing tackle for you. But they're not done addressing the position. And I think there are some talented players on day 3 this year, like a Holland Pierce, for instance, that is a mountain of a man that showed out at the East-West Shrine Bowl. Maybe that's a guy that you look at those athletic traits out of Rutgers and, hey, we can build upon this. He's going to take a couple seasons to come along, but he has the ability to kick inside or play tackle for you. There's a lot of guys like Chase Lunt. I mean, there's guys that Bill Callahan's going to like. So they're not done there by any means. And I think we've, if anything, just kind of patched up the biggest hole that was on this roster, which leads them to their next biggest hole, if not the quarterback position, which is the edge rusher, which they brought in Draymond Jones as of yesterday, late yesterday, 1 year, $10 million, kind of that Harold Landry replacement. And I think they get him at a good price. This is a guy that may not ever be a 10-sack player for you, but that's perfectly fine. He does generate. We
don't have any of those anyway.
We don't have anybody. And this is a guy that's a former second-round pick. I think he had only 3 or 4 sacks last year. But when we look at the pressures, he's generating that pressure. And I think that's what Denard Wilson is trying to capture on this defense. And that's what we saw last season is, hey, you don't have to get home. But if we can stuff the run on 1st and 2nd down and get you in 3rd and long, we're getting off the field. You don't have to get the sack. Allow Tavondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons to pressure at the middle. Don't get out of contain and almost those little mush rushes. And I know we were going into the season going, Denard Wilson's going to blitz his dick off. And we just didn't see that last year.
We were very wrong.
Yeah.
Very wrong. They did play up to the line of scrimmage with the corners, which you love to see. That's something Titans fans have not seen in a very long time. But it was almost reminiscent of the Jeff Fisher-esque defenses out there that, again, zone to man, but they're playing bend, don't break. And when we saw that rush defense kind of fall off with the departure of EJ and Kenneth Murray just couldn't live up to the hype and they didn't have another running partner for him, that's when the defense broke. So obviously they moved Kenneth Murray yesterday with that pick swap to get that additional 6th round, get rid of that 7th, and they bring in a guy like Cody Barton, which is just a slightly better fit for the Titans. He's Kenneth Murray clothed by all means. He's not going to be good in coverage. He's going to be a fast twitch, trigger, get downhill, see ball, get ball kind of guy, but he might be a slight improved version in coverage. So that's where they're going with this defense. And we talked about Javon Holland as well and how they're addressing that safety group. I just don't see that as a premium position for this team with Denard Wilson. This is a guy that took Geno Stone at Baltimore and turned him into the leading interception leader in the NFL and got him paid over there in Cincinnati. So I think they can take a guy like Xavier Woods, and I know they brought back Mike Brown, who was a good third option for you last season that could fill in a pinch, and then Monty Hooker, who we talk about a lot on the show as well. So I think they've kind of patched up
waiting on him to go too.
And now the longest tenured Titan with Aaron Landry gone.
That's a shame. He's going to end up in the ring of fame. It's a damn shame.
I don't even know who the second player would be.
That's a damn shame.
After him.
Where he belongs.
This guy's going to come back in 10 years and be the 12th Titan, and I'm going to be pissed.
What's crazy is you were so wrong about Amani Hooker. Come on, man.
No, I'm still right.
No. Oh, come on. What did he have? What did he have to do? What are you talking about?
The guy's not good, man.
That's unreal.
He's not good.
I was wrong about Traylon Burks. We took a 50-50 split on that one, I think.
You still got time. He's coming back this year.
I don't know.
This is a breakout season. He's wide receiver too.
Breakout season loading. I mean, look, you have to roster him.
Cam Ward is going to unlock him.
That would be, I would be doing backflips down Broadway, bro. I would be ecstatic.
He's Terrell Owens, didn't you know? Calvin Ridley told
he's
you that
He's gonna have like a Corey Davis effect where the last season with us is really good, and then he gets market money somewhere else or something silly.
No, they've definitely got to address the wide receiver position additionally through the draft and free agency going forward, because you can't roll out Calvin Ridley, Vance Jefferson, Traylon Burks, and Jaquan Jackson. I get people are high on Bryce Oliver as well, who I think is just Nick Westbrook-Akine, where he was coming out as an undrafted free agent. You can bring that guy along and he can maybe develop into a wide receiver 4. You don't want that guy playing significant snaps, though.
No, not off rip. No, they have to address the position. I think not only in the draft, but they're not going to be adding a premium receiver in the draft, most likely, unless a guy falls in the second round like he's not supposed to at the top of the second, potentially.
That ain't going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen either. There's very limited. There's like 4 really good receivers at the top of this draft, and I think they're all going to go pretty quickly. So them picking a receiver at 35 doesn't make any sense. I think they most likely have to go edge at that point.
You know what I'll be – it's not going to happen because there's too much smoke at this point. And it's what we talked about, I want to say last week or the week before, but I just wish the Titans would find a way to fall back to about 3 and pick Shador instead of Cam Ward and get some draft capital and be able to add a receiver or something, man. I just like that's the gold mine for us. But sticking at 1 and drafting Ward, I'm not so sold on Ward. I don't like everybody's talking about how well he plays out of structure. I don't care about that. I want to see
this brother plays amazing in structure, by the way. Too.
No,
he
not
does.
Amazing.
I think it's overhyped of how he doesn't. I get. Was it Will?
I've watched the tape.
Will. That was a big blow up.
The ball hits the ground entirely too much.
Oh,
as long as it doesn't touch the defense, I'm fine with it.
That's not the standard for 1-on-1.
The boneheaded plays. The dude's never thrown more than 10 in the season. I think the most he ever had was 9 when he was playing Division II.
And I also think it's disrespectful how these people are putting him upside against Steve McNair. By the way, that I'm tired of seeing that shit too.
Look, you better learn Cam Ward season, buddy. Get ready to learn Cam Ward because it's happening.
I know it's happening.
It's a speedy train. Hey, and get ready because he's going to change the dynamic of this franchise, baby. I'm hyped. I can't wait to be so right about this. This is going to feel better than any take I've ever had. Because I was on this train I'm telling you, the second I watched this tape, I said, I'm in.
Here's the thing with Jonathan. The guy throws all his eggs in one basket, and I respect it.
I like Shador too. If the Titans found a way to trade down to 3 and they found a way to take Shador, if that reality happened, I would be happy.
I would be ecstatic.
I'd be stoked.
I mean, that for me, that should be planned.
Method, but by all accounts, it's going to be Ward at 1.
It's going to be Cam.
It's going to be Ward, right? I'm not as ecstatic as others are. Now, if he had the ability, if the ball didn't touch the ground, I've watched the film. If the ball didn't touch the ground as much as it does on tape, and there's just the dichotomy of some of his quarters and halves that I I don't like that either. And we're talking about the ACC here, and all conferences are strong. Don't get me wrong. But we're talking about the ACC and his dichotomy between a first half and a second half, his dichotomy between the first quarter and the second quarter. It's not good. And that's what I really have. That's what I really take exception to. It's just you're Miami. You're number 15 in the nation. You shouldn't be down 14 to some scrub team. He shouldn't have to pull you back in the second half.
Pulls them right back.
But why did you have to pull him back?
He's the one.
What did you do in the first half? Yes. What did you do in the first half? Come on,
you play
man.
4 quarters of football.
Come on, man. Why are you there in that position?
90% of those times, bro, that's the whole point. You can say, why are you in the position? Whether it's Cam
You're
Ward,
not doing that in the NFL.
Whether it's that's not true. It happens to Patrick Mahomes and those guys all the time.
He's not.
They do it all the time.
Yeah, he does.
Look, I'm not saying that he's Patrick Mahomes.
What I'm saying, he don't have the ability to do it either.
That's cap. Because he did just that many times, especially at Miami, and not just at Miami. He's showed this tape in his previous years too. Look, here's the thing. You're going to take the good with the bad. He is not a perfect prospect by any means. There are elements to his game that he absolutely has to fix. But the upside and where he currently is versus, I don't know, many other prospects is far and away different from what the Titans have had in this franchise at that position, right? He is far closer to guys like Caleb Williams and Patrick Mahomes than he is guys like Jake Locker and Will Levis. Will Levis, like, just looking at him as a prospect, these are two completely different tales of the tape here, right? Will wasn't doing any of the stuff that Cam Ward was doing. Playing out of structure is the fancy part of Cam's game that people get excited about. And it's the reason why you get excited, because the rah-rah plays and the craziness, whatever. But when you watch the tape, he shows you time and time again, well over 70% of his snaps are him playing within structure, getting to his first read, changing the defense, reading pre-snap very well. And when he sees disguised coverage after post-snap, he doesn't get tricked. He is able to adjust, move to his next read, get out of the pocket, make some plays where there's nothing downfield. He's smart. He is reading the defense at an advanced level smart. That matters.
Okay. So the rah-rah that everybody's excited about, this out-of-structure play that everybody's getting excited about, him breaking tackles, getting out of the D lineman's hands in the backfield, you got to remember, that's in the ACC. That's really in college. There's grown men in the NFL. He's not getting out of the hands of these guys in the NFL. He's not doing that. The guy is 6 foot, 210? That's not translating.
All of the guys who did that in college previously, like
that's
the
not
Mahomes
translating.
and the Lamar Jackson, it translated for them.
He is not in that. He's not of that ilk and that caliber of this capability of Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. He is not. Please stop mentioning. We've mentioned Mahomes entirely too much on this podcast when talking about Cam Ward. He's not even close. Stop saying Patrick Mahomes.
You said that if you do it in college, it doesn't translate to the NFL. But
I said he's not going to translate to the NFL doing that.
Why? He's doing it in college.
He's 6 foot 210. He's not happening. It's overstated. His out of structure play and be able to his escapability is overstated. Is what I'm saying. You got to have elite escapability to be able to do it in the NFL. It's not elite. It's not translating.
He does it at a consistent level. It's not like he's done it once or twice and you go, okay, he can't do that. He can't recreate that.
It's not even above.
He's not elite about it. He finds a way to stay on balance. He finds a way to make a play, get out of structure. Here's the difference. As Titans fans, we just watched a boneheaded, non-elite quarterback try to play out of structure, and it was like listening to Benny Hill music. It was an absolute clown show.
Boy now.
It was an absolute clown show watching him try to extend the play. That is not Cam Ward. On a consistent basis, Cam Ward is able to see the field, escape in the pocket, have efficient mobility that gets him open, keeping his eyes down the field and extending drives. That's what good quarterbacks do. I'm not asking him to be Michael Vick. I'm not asking him to be Lamar Jackson. You just get a consistent. I mean, look, I'm not asking him to be 3-time Super Bowl winning champion Patrick Mahomes, but what I am saying is that all of those same qualities are there, but it's not just the escapability, like being strong and being able to rip someone off of you. What matters is being able to extend the play, shift around, be mobile enough to create extra time for your receivers to get open. That's all we care about. I don't care about him stiff arming someone and then trucking and then, Jalen Hurtsing getting around the edge because he's so fast. I'm not saying that he's an elite athlete in that way. I'm just saying that he is elite in the way that he moves around the pocket, extends plays, creates more time for his receivers to get open. That's what he does in elite level.
I don't see that at an elite level. I see him doing that to a above average degree, right? And I see he does that, and I also see problems when he does that. When he's like a damn, he'll see a damn receiver out the corner of his eye across the field and try to throw across his body and throw a almost pick 3 or 4 times. I've seen that 3 or 4 times just in the Miami tape. Like, that is a problem, and it's going to be hard to break him with that. And that's what we're going to be. He has that bozo gene in him, and that's what's really going to be problematic. No, dead ass. He has the bozo gene. It's going to be problematic.
We got to stop doing that, man. Look, Will Levis is another level of clown show that we had to get subjected
I haven't
to,
mentioned
and that's
Levis.
fair. Yeah,
I'm saying he has the bozo gene, though.
We're only saying that as a term because we've watched it for the past year and a half.
No, we're not. I'm saying it because I've seen the guy scramble 30 yards southeast and then throw a 50-50, 10 yards by the line of scrimmage in the 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
That play happened 4 times in 10 games, B. Will. You can't – that's not
40% of the time.
That's not – no.
I mean, shit.
It's not 40% of his throws, B.
40% of the games.
40%
of the season.
Math.
4 out of 10.
4% of his throws.
Too much.
40. No, look, I'm not saying that doesn't exist in him, and that is an element to the game that he'll have to improve at, but it's not overbearing enough. You don't see it so much that it's like, oh my God, this is a big problem. It's like, yo, hey, let's try to reel this in a little bit. Well, you could argue 40% of Will Levis's throws were bozo throws, right? But for Cam Ward, just because that exists in his game, it doesn't mean that that's his consistency. And I didn't see it as a consistency. It came up, like I probably counted probably 5 of those plays over like the 6 games that I watched, right? So again,
it's more though, man. It's not just 4 or 5 throws in his 10 games. He does it more. He just didn't get bit for it more because guys are dropping it, or he does it more though. Like I'm telling you, he does it more. I've seen it just in the Miami tape alone. He does it more.
He's making more plays than he's not. And whether it's like, whoa, that was a turnover worthy throw. Like I hear what you're saying on that. He's making plays. He's extending drives. He's doing that on a consistency. It's not like, oh, wow, these were a couple, like Zach Wilson had a couple of plays where it was like, wow, holy smokes, he rolled out and then threw it on a rope 70 yards. He had
that stuff don't excite me. I'll be honest.
Me neither. But what I'm saying is that it's different for a quarterback to have that type of playability in him versus we're seeing that type of play consistently. And that's the difference in Cam Ward and a guy like Zach Wilson, for example. So all I'm saying is that he passes my eye test with flying colors. I'm not saying he's going to be a perfect quarterback. I'm not even saying that he's going to have a Jaden Daniels type of effect on the Titans if he is picked at that position. But I am saying that I think he is dynamic enough and has enough upside to be a franchise changer for the team. That's what I am saying.
Does the dichotomy of his play from half to half and quarter to quarter concern you?
Sure.
In college.
I mean, you don't love the roller coaster ride that you might go from a first half to a second half. However, what I do love in that chaos is that he is able to play level-headed. He is smooth. When you watch him play, you do not at any point get the idea that like, oh, he's anxious. Oh, he's getting out of his britches a little bit here. Ever. So yes, is there a bit of a roller coaster with the
That's
level
one of his
play?
best traits,
Sure.
I will say.
But he is calm, man. He is collected. He is prepared to play quarterback at a high level. And that matters. That's a trait that's between the ears, which is what we need in a Titans quarterback. So not only does he play with the rah-rah excitability of what a fun playmaker at quarterback is, but he also plays with the calm, cool demeanor that Shedeur Sanders has. That's one of his best traits. and plays at a level that is okay, this moment's not going to be too big for him. They're down, they're behind because of XY reason. That's the franchise pop. That's the Hall of Fame trait of a quarterback that you need, right? So that's, to me, I kind of flip the script on that a little bit. So yeah, is it a little bit concerning? Sure, right? But at the same time, you take the good with the bad in that way, I think.
I think the biggest concern for me is I did see some chest passes. They did work out in his favor. There was the one against NC State, I think, where he tosses out to Elijah Arroyo and he takes it for a touchdown. It turns into a highlight, but I don't think
that was an interception.
He's not Aaron McNair. Yes, exactly. This isn't Aaron McNair. This isn't Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. I think he does have a great pocket feel, though.
John
he does
said
have a great
man's name
pocket
too
feel.
much.
It's just a play style comp. That's all. It's just a play style comp.
Titans fans, they haven't had a quarterback that knows how to read pressure in the last decade plus. Marcus Mariota, awful at it. Will Levis, awful at it. Ryan Tannehill had negative on that. I mean, this is a guy that can
negative aura.
Yes. When I look at what Cam Ward could be, he reminds me a lot of, and Bill Sparks in the comments, Cleveland fan. This is young-ish Deshaun Watson. This isn't a hyper athlete, but he can roll out. He can make some plays out of structure. I'm not talking Cleveland, Deshaun Watson. I'm talking the guy that paid. So I can see a little bit of that, and hopefully he doesn't have all the off the field stuff in that regard. But I can see the ability to make that big play, but it's not going to be perfect. He's still going to put you down a couple of games. But as long as it's more good than bad, I'm happy. Shedeur obviously is kind of in that same realm as these past quarterbacks that we've had. He's going to float outside of the pocket. He's going to generate sacks on his own. And I get he never had an offensive line to Colorado, and he turned that franchise around this last couple of years. But at the end of the day, they're going quarterback, and he's not the same caliber of Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams and Drake May were last year, but he's still in that same realm. This is a guy that you can still build around, I think, and he's worthy of the first overall pick. And they now have an offensive line to protect him because he's going to take time to adjust to the NFL speed. And maybe you bring in a guy like Jameis Winston to start that first half of the season or so. Maybe they look at Russell Wilson potentially if that goes to fruition.
Let's be real, Jake. Cam Ward should not start a football game.
No way! You just did all this and said the guy should not start a football game.
No. I mean, does he situationally play halfway through the year because of injury or something, or maybe you're just doing so poorly with the veteran that it's like, let's swing him in? Sure, yes, but you should not start opening day with Cam Ward at quarterback, in my opinion. It should be
his ass in there,
veteran.
I'm telling you, Jake, bring in some of these comments, man. We got some comments. MB made a good one. He told.
I think he's good enough, but I don't think he should
10 minutes ago.
So he said these QBs are being so overhyped by Titans fans, which I do agree to an extent. These aren't generational talents by any means. But the quarterback position's a shit shoe anyways. You can still grab we just
let me go find a comment that matches my narrative. Hold on.
I don't know.
We've got lots of comments up here, but and it seems pretty split. I think the unfortunate matter of the fact is this is the guy you have to choose from. It's Shedeur, Cam Ward. And by all accounts, it looks like it's going to be Cam.
Do we think it's all for football?
He's better than Will
Do we think it's all
Levis.
for football reasons that it's Cam? Because how does Shedeur drop so much at the combine? He didn't throw a football.
Cam Ward is a better player than Shedeur Sanders.
No, he's not.
I don't agree with that, but I believe he has a more higher upside. He is higher
that we
upside.
can agree on.
But I believe Shedeur is safer, and I think at today's NFL, you don't need Patrick Mahomes to win. We just saw it. Jalen Hurts won a game as a second-round pick.
I mean, clearly it's not me, guys. I mean, all of the NFL agrees with me, so I don't.
They do. They do.
You guys can be upset with me, I guess, but that's just look. Just in my evaluation, Shedeur is still good. Like,
I just don't think it's for football reasons. I think Shedeur is polarizing.
No, of course
the media
not.
is just it's a witch hunt.
Of course not.
And Bill Sparks in the comments, he brings up a very good comment as Shedeur's probably not making it to 3.
I agree.
They are
agree.
probably taking whoever's not picked at 1.
I have the
And
quarterbacks
then
going
if
1
you-
and 2.
Yeah, if you drop down to 3, you're sitting there with your dick in your hand, hoping for a Jalen Milroe, a Jackson Dart, a Will Howard. There's nothing left. Dylan Gabriel, whoever, insert
Quinn Ewers,
real estate agent here.
Hey, I'm telling you, we'll draft one of them guys. Jonathan be pounding the table for their ass on Thursday.
Hell no. Cam Ward.
If that's the case, Will Levis could very realistically be your starter in 2025, and then you're sitting right back here next year. And
I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Yuck. Okay.
It's very gross, and I don't want to watch 17 more games with Will Levis. But
look, the writing is on the wall, boys. It's a quarterback to Tennessee at 1. It just is. So if it's a trade, and the risky thing is if you trade down to 3 with the Giants, you probably have to punt on a quarterback at that point. And the Titans have seen this. Like, it's very clear. We haven't seen them connected, although we saw them connected to Russell Wilson for like a half a day. And then they're like, oh, never mind. Titans, after that visit, it was cooked. It was done. Like, the Titans were going. By the way, before that 30 visit, the Titans were going Cam Ward. They just were. I'm sorry. Like, they can say they're doing all the things, blah, 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 whatever. They're going Cam Ward. But I will say, even if Shedeur Sanders was the pick at 1 and they didn't trade down and they took Shedeur over Cam, I wouldn't be upset because I'm pretty high on Shedeur Sanders as well. I think he's a very good player. And I agree with you guys. I just think that Cam Ward is going to be a better player.
Before we get out of here, this is the problem I have with this organization. They're scared to be bold, right? Yeah. And being bold is saying to hell with what the media is saying. We're taking the better quarterback. And they're not doing that. Let's be honest. They're taking the guy they like more. They're taking the guy the media likes more. They're taking the guy that's not going to be as much of an uproar. That's the problem that's one of the problems of this organization. They're not bold. So that's it. Because we're not taking a better quarterback here. Let's be honest. I don't care what these reporters say. They're reporters. I've watched the tape. I've seen both of these guys. Shedeur Sanders is a better quarterback than Cam Ward right now. Now, you can talk upside and all that. You can talk that. He's the better quarterback. He processes better. I think the arm talent is not as much, it's not as overstated as people are saying it is. He has just enough arm talent to make any throw on the field. He has the same, if not more, elite mentality than Cam Ward. Shedeur has the tools to play with it. He's the prototypical. If you were to say, draw me up a West Coast quarterback in 2025, a guy that'll run a West Coast scheme to a T, Shedeur Sanders is who's coming out of that. You know what I mean? And that's what we're running. And that's what is the rave in the NFL at this moment. He fits it like a glove. And he's a better quarterback. Like, it's just, but the Titans are afraid to be bold, and they're afraid to, it's a cowardly organization.
Taking Cam Ward is about as bold as it gets, Will.
It's not. No,
yes, it is. Bro, look, you can have your Shedeur Sanders preference. That's fine. A lot of people, like, in this camp, like, you're splitting hairs. I think 1A, 1B is a fair conversation for the quarterbacks. The reason why I think they're leaning Cam is because I think a big thing is I think Cam is a better leader. I think he's going to end up being a better leader. He projects himself. He kind of has that aura to Shedeur. Yeah, you can, because Shedeur is kind of like got like a little bit of like a goofiness to him. Like, I'm sure he locks in when it's serious football time, but I think Cam,
the Colorado team that had one win and they turned the whole damn program around.
Yeah,
turned the whole damn state of Colorado around.
I'm just saying. I think that Cam is going to be I think he commands a room better than a Shedeur Sanders can. But again, splitting hairs. At this point, yes, right? Like, yeah, I like both guys. I wouldn't be mad with either. If the Titans ended up picking Shedeur, then I would say, okay, they were really convicted on him as a player and they think that he's ready to roll. Cool. I do too. I think he's going to be very, very good. But right now, for me, it's Cam.
I think some of the early conversations was if Sanders had a different last name, if he was Shedeur Jones, he wouldn't be in the first round conversation. I think we've come full circle, and I think his last name is actually hurting him.
It's hurting him. It 100% is. It's not.
So if it's hurting him and he's still going to be a 2, what does that say, Jonathan?
It says that he's in the conversation with Cam Ward. 100%. 1A, 1B for sure. No doubt.
Go ahead, Jake.
It's all about preference.
No, that's all I've just been thinking about that lately. I was like, man, if this was Shador Jones, maybe he would be viewed differently. And we coming out of the combine, the interviews and stuff, he was reviewed as brash and arrogant, and that's what I want my quarterback. I want to have that fuck you mentality. I'm better than
we're talking about.
Yeah. And we've seen all the training clips.
It's more than that too.
Together, and you see, I mean, that shows on tape, and I think there's different types of leadership. There's shows by example. There's ones that actually get in your face and yell. I don't think either of these guys are that. Maybe the show by example, but I think at the end of the day, I like Shador's mentality over Cam Ward's. More of that, less reserved. I think Cam Ward's similar, right, to even like a Justin Herbert, more reserved, more quiet, Marcus Mariota-esque type. We've seen that. I want the Baker Mayfield out there that's screaming as he runs down the field to celebrate with his guys. And maybe that's a guy that, like we've been talking about already today, splitting hairs at this point. But I regardless, it's going to be quarterback at 1, regardless if it's Shador or Cam. Probably
they're
Cam.
not trading the pick.
I just don't. And this is me putting my tinfoil hat on. I just don't see especially if Carthon was still here, there would not be this clear of an alignment on Cam Ward over Shador Sanders, and that's why I think that was part of the reason why he's gone, because there would have been a really, they would have had some conflict with that, because I think Carthon would have taken a better quarterback, no matter what. The status quo is or what the media is saying, he would have taken the better quarterback, and the better quarterback is Shador Sanders. The better quarterback before the combine was Shador Sanders. The better quarterback throughout the college football season was Shador Sanders. We can't let the media narratives drive us and gaslight us into thinking something different. All this time, the better quarterback all this time, the better quarterback was Shador Sanders. Do not let the media drive us into thinking something different. I don't pay attention to none of that shit. I look at the tape. The better quarterback is Shador Sanders. And Titans are not bold enough of an organization. They're a cowardly organization for not taking a better quarterback.
You could keep saying it. It doesn't make it more true. I don't know, man. Like I at this point, I guess, we can agree to disagree on that. But I think that Cam gives you the upside that Cam, it's not just the upside factor, right? It really is the player that he is. And today's NFL, I think they're both going to be good players. It's like CJ Stroud versus Bryce Young. They're both probably going to end up being very good players, right? So at the end of the day, which way do you want to go?
Jonathan are sitting half a season. Neither one of them guys are sitting half the whole year. If he's that guy, he should be starting game 1 too. Yeah, Jonathan, you're saying one thing and then saying another.
Well, I mean, it's not my decision.
Dor comes in here I think
it
starts game 1 if he
throw your rookie into the fire with this type of roster. But maybe for that exact reason, that's why they will do that. I'm just saying, I think it's smarter to kind of ease the quarterback into play here and not toss him into the fire. That's all I'm saying. Really quickly, before we get out of here, though, can we do a one free agent that we would really like to see the team sign for the rest of? Maybe it's today or tomorrow or whatever, just to kind of
we can definitely do that.
I think we might say the same name.
Maybe
Jonathan.
On 3, 1, 2, 3, TK.
No. I think my pick will probably be different from you guys. Of the available free agents, I was kind of taking a look. I don't know. Maybe I'm just delusional. Azeez Ojulari is a close first for me. Or Zadarius Smith. I think adding another edge would be really big here. But, man, this wide receiver room has really got me tripping. And if you are drafting a quarterback, I think we really need to add some level of talent there. There's 2 receivers that I personally really like and would like to have. But for the sake of only picking one, I would love Cooper Kupp. I think that'd be fantastic. I know he's probably only got like a year or 2 left in the tank maybe. But he is a damn good player for what he does. He gets open. He catches the ball reliably. Tight window throws, those types of things, and tight coverage. He is reliable in traffic. So to me, he adds, the level of receiver that the Titans really need to pair with Calvin Ridley. And at this point, if the Titans did nothing else and they just addressed and got a good receiver, wide receiver 2 or 1, depending on how you look at it, either him or Stephon Diggs, I would be really high on. adding to the team. And then at that point, it's like, cool. Okay, let's fill out some other holes. If they did nothing else in free agency and just added a premier receiver, I'd be really, really happy.
I've got two names.
I would agree with the Azeez. I have two names as well. The Azeez Ojulari, great first option. I would also throw out Charles Omenihu over at Kansas City, another younger-esque prospect that you can maybe have for a couple years. I'd be perfectly fine with that. On the Cooper side, I'm going the other Cooper. I like Amari Cooper just a little bit more. I think he has a little bit more in the tank. And when you look at what this front office has kind of done thus far, they've gotten guys that stay healthy. We're talking about guys that don't miss game, but Cooper Kupp just doesn't fit that mold. Dude, no. You're hoping to have him out there for half the season. I think Amari Cooper just has a little bit more in the tank, and we're talking route running savant, very similar into the right of a Calvin Ridley, and I think those two have a great relationship working already. So I would lean towards Charles Omenihu and Amari Cooper for me personally. What about you, B. Will?
I'd say Amari Cooper too, just because runs routes really well. Consistent pros pro. I think he has a little bit left in the tank, I'd say. I think he'd do well with a change of scenery down here in Nashville. Bring him back to the South. And then my next name is, just because I'm not sold on this left tackle, and not to say that he can even move to left tackle, but he could be a project to move to right tackle possibly. I mean, Mekhi Becton. I think if Bill Callen's able to get his hands on Mekhi Becton improved a lot last year. So he's ascending in the right direction. I would give him a 2 or 3 year deal and see what we can do with him. He could usher into one of these starting spots. He could fill in the right guard role next year. Give him a sort of a redshirt year with us. Let him work on his technique and really get under, the grips of Bill Callahan and let Bill Callahan tear into him. And we could have a starter level, an above average, starting either guard, or he could even play. He's big enough to play tackle if we really need him to. So Mekhi Becton and Amari Cooper is my two names who I'd like to see.
Kai just was going to probably want to start because he's just coming off of the best year of his career. So I could see him just wanting to go to somewhere where he can start. But yeah, I'm on board with Amari. My only thing with Amari Cooper is that he had a pretty underwhelming stint with the Buffalo Bills. And it's like, okay, I don't really know what that was attributed to.
Those trades mid-season never work out. And we saw it with Amari Cooper when he went to Cleveland, when he got traded to him. I mean, they just never work out. Same with Stephon. Vice versa. Getting inputted into a system in the middle of the season is damn near impossible. I don't recall ever seeing a wide receiver get traded in the season and having success with that other team in year one. That's one thing I'm not writing too much into. I think if they do go that route, the biggest concern I would have for this team, though, is just the explosive ability. There's no speedster on this team, and that's something we've struggled with all last year as well. You don't have a guy that can take off the top of the defense, and maybe just Jaquan Jackson has this. That's not the guy. Maybe they're going to have to address that through the draft. But I
he doesn't belong in the state of Tennessee. I'm being honest. He don't belong in the state of Tennessee.
Maybe they go with a former volunteer. Maybe they bring in a Dante Thornton Jr. who set the combine on fire, fastest 40, I think. And maybe they grab him on day 3 and say, hey, your job is the McCole Hardman job when he was over at Kansas City. You're just going to run a straight fucking line as fast as you humanly possible. And you're going to allow Calvin Ridley and Amari Cooper or Cooper Kupp to come out open underneath. Maybe that's what they're looking at. So, regardless,
I take that back about Jaquan Jackson too. I think he can make a job. He could do the job at Belmont or MTSU. Not the Tennessee Titans.
This is potential cut candidate. John Bones Fassel. We'll see if he keeps him around, because as of right now, I mean, that is a special teams player, and if he's not returning punts or kicks, probably no need to be on this roster.
I will say about Bones. Bones is making some calls to some special teams aces around the league. I will say that, and I'll leave it at that.
We didn't talk about it. Stoney out. Stoney Baloney is gone, and Johnny Hecker is in.
People were so pissed, and then like an hour later,
I was pissed. I was pissed. I was about to come on the show and rip Brinker. I was ready. Instead, I just took it out on Dan Jones, whatever his name is.
Dan Moore. Learn the guy's name for Pete's sake, bro.
Call him Daniel Jones.
But I think that wraps it up for most of today's show. We're going to get on out of here. We appreciate everybody in the comments, from Coach Wills, Lowe's, Bill Sparks. There's 1,000 others of you guys in here. We enjoy you checking out the show. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Enter in that chance to win the signed Charles Spears jersey giveaway. We'll give that away as soon as we hit the 1,000 subscriber mark, and we're closing in closer by the day. And then go check out the merch as well. But we appreciate you guys. Love you. Mean it. Big hugs, tiny kisses.